Welcome everyone to our webinar series, Decipher the Dating Code, Solving the Mysteries of Dating and Relationship in the 21st Century. My name is Dr. Dan Emzalag, and I'm your moderator for today's workshop. So here's a quick bit about myself. I'm a cognitive behavior psychotherapist and marriage and relationship coach, passionate about helping people build a healthy and long-lasting relationship. So this workshop series explores the many challenges of modern dating, from online interaction and communication struggles to emotional availability and genuine connection. Our goal here is to help you navigate to today's complex dating scene with clarity, confidence, and purpose. So joining me today at this workshop is our expert panelist, Lisa Copeland, author of Winning Dating Formula and love coach helping women over 50 navigating dating with confidence, in which will bring deep insight and practical knowledge in the field of dating and relationship. Before we begin the workshop, I'll invite our guest panelist to briefly introduce herself, as no one else can do a better job. Lisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Dan. Well, I was not always a dating coach. I used to really suck at dating. And after a 24-year marriage, I took time to heal. I think that's very important for anyone that's dating or that before they date, anyone out of a relationship, to take time to heal. If you don't take time to heal, you're just going to reattract what you left. And I had no confidence. I didn't know what I was doing. I cried a lot. And I did end up getting married the second time. And when that ended, because of intense chemistry and nothing under it, 2 years after we met, or 2 years after we were married, I called my sister and I said, I'm doomed to be alone the rest of my life. This is just like boohoo. I was like such a victim. And she said, you are the most resourceful person I know. You can figure this out. And so I did. And then I knew what I was doing. And especially around men, because I'd always been friends with men. I had great men, great men in my life. But in relationships, I emasculated them without realizing it. And that's actually what got me into this, was having not my first husband, but a relationship between husbands. And the second one say, you don't know how to let it be a man. You don't know how to let a man be a man. And then my friends saw I was having so much fun and I gave them tips. And then I came across a statistic about how many people over 50 were getting divorced.
Mhm.
And I thought about when I first started dating and how I sat there and cried. I mean, just cried because I didn't know what to do. And I thought, I need to help women with this. I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. And that's how I became a dating coach for women over 50 and did it before it was popular. So
It was good timing, actually, Lisa. That's amazing. What you bring to our society, especially in today's dating world, is very, very difficult now to really understand, especially with dating apps that we see so much catfishing, breadcrumbing, ghosting, and all those other terms that they use nowadays. But we're going to cover a lot of those today. So first and foremost, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to have you here today attending this workshop as our guest panelist. And we look forward right now to jump into today's topic. Now, let me get started with a real life scenario, Lisa, taken from some of my existing clients dealing with the topic that we will cover today. So I would like to share with all of you a brief story about someone I'll call Jennifer. Obviously, the name is fictional. Jennifer walked into my office one afternoon, looking both excited and a little bit nervous. She had just started dating again after a long break and wanted to make sure she wasn't repeating old patterns again. So she shared her concerns. So how to leave a memorable impression on the first date, how to connect authentically, and how to feel confident without overthinking everything. So we first started with the first date energy. I explained to Jennifer that it's not about trying to impress someone with perfection, but it's more about the vibe that she brings. Her energy, her warmth, and her curiosity set the tone for that first date. So she also realized that when she shows up genuinely, with openness and confidence, it naturally leaves an impression that makes the other person want to see her again by booking date number 2. And next, we also explored the power of presence. So Jennifer admitted that she often caught herself thinking about what to say next instead of truly listening to the conversation. So I showed her some active listening skills, really focusing a lot on the other person, noticing their stories and reaction. And that is a secret of dating superpower, which a lot of people lacks up because I'm not sure if you're going to agree with this or not, Lisa, but a lot of people talk about themselves primarily. They forget about the other person, they forget about who they are. And then, of course, at the end of the conversation or the date, they completely forget who they dated. I'm not sure if that happens as well when you coach some of your lady clients, but that's something that we're definitely going to cover as well. And also, came the part that many struggle with, and I'm not sure if this is something that you also experience or not, Lisa, is authenticity over perfection. So my client, Jennifer, confessed that she overanalyzed every word and gesture. I remind her that the connection isn't about being flawless, but it's about being herself. Every word that she was talking or she was trying to convey or portray or whatever it is, she overanalyzed it. So that made her think twice about the word that she was going to use in the conversation. So that made her kind of stutter a little bit. And that made the other person think that that's actually I would say not a common problem that she has, but this is more something permanent. And finally, we talked also about body language and chemistry. So I also explained to her that nonverbal cues like a smile, eye contact, leaning in slightly, subtle mirroring, which is what we learn in NLP, often speaks louder than words. And she also realized that she didn't need to perform to create chemistry. By being authentic and aware of her body language, she could naturally convey interest and attraction. So today, and I'm sure that as you will agree as well, Lisa, a lot of people now in the dating scene, I'm not sure if it's common to the 50 years old and over, but it seems like every single people out there are dealing the same thing, and regardless of the age. So first and foremost, let me ask you about what do you consider first date energy? I mean, when someone comes to you, Lisa, how do you help your lady clients, those who are over 50, now they're a completely different generation, they're Generation X, now we're in 2026, it's completely different the way that we date. So what do you suggest for them to bring the right vibe?
Great question. And I help both Gen X and baby boomers right now. And one of the things about being over 50 is women feel insecure about their bodies. Men do too, or they can, but women really feel insecure. And that has a lot to do with the media and what is shown on Facebook and Reels and TikTok and all of that. And so it sets in your mind, oh my God, I have to be perfect to go out there to get the guy. No, what you do want to do is you want to get back in touch with the amazing things about you. Because when you do that, you're coming from a place of confidence. And men love women who are confident. They don't want to be told what to do, where to do, how to do things. I'm sure you can attest to that. But what they want to do, what a man likes is a woman that feels good about herself. And most women don't. So when I work with women, one of the first things I do is help them get in touch again with what they love about themselves physically. That is very challenging for most women because they've just criticized themselves for so long that they have forgotten what's great about me.
Mhm,
So we get in touch with physical, and if they can't love it, they can be grateful for it. So let's say they don't like their arms, they go, I'm so grateful for my arms because I get to hug the people I love.
mhm,
And that reframes that whole thing about what you love physically about yourself. Then we get in touch with their personality. So many times when women are in relationships, they give themselves up and they become the guy or his likes, his interests.
mhm,
And then when they're out of the relationship, they kind of have forgotten who they are. And it's really important to get back in touch with who you are again before you go out there and date. So I help them remember that, as well as helping them remember what they love to do, what they're passionate about, and what their biggest passion is. Because what I have found about men is they love the passion in women. It's attractive. You light up when you're really happy.
mhm.
So that's the first thing I do with women is getting that confidence in place.
But then here's the big problem. We're fighting against a big monster, which is social media.
Yeah.
When women look and they compare themselves to what they see on social media, the women who invest $100,000 in plastic surgery, tummy tuck, or whatever, like a breast implant, and so on and so forth, it's very, very hard to compete with that. And I'm not sure if you've heard about this statistic, but most city nowadays, we see that there's 7 women for 1 man because of either the men are fed up to date, so they're not really mentally and emotionally available. So that makes women much more in competition with each other. So they have to be better. They have to have something unique about themselves. So how do you fight that monster?
Well, first of all, I don't let them go there. There's always going to be a negative. I have the belief that you are able to attract from where you're at. And if you feel that only your outside is all that's important, then that's what you're going to attract. You will attract surface. If you're feeling really good about yourself, you can attract someone that feels good about themselves. I think focusing on that negative is just going to take you down a rabbit hole. And yes, it may take longer, but if you think, oh my God, you go on a dating site and you look up other women, and all it does is make you feel you're not enough.
Mhm,
And it's really all an inside job. It's all about how you feel about yourself. And then you got to go out there, not just online, but in real life and
mhm.
talk to people and meet people and just, get used to talking to anybody and everybody.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So how long do you think you can give to women that you coach in general to be able to start changing that or to switch that mindset or that light bulb from being focused too much on the physicality versus their personality, their presence, and so on and so forth? Because again, what really brings two people together is the physical attraction. We cannot deny that, Lisa. So how do you tell them, well, that's not supposedly to be the priority. You should focus more about what you have as assets versus liabilities.
Definitely. But also when I work with women, we create what's called a quality man template. And that helps them get really clear on who they want versus focusing just on chemistry, because chemistry is just the release of the hormone, oxytocin. That is all it is. And I encourage women to um, look for connection. You talked about the first date with your client. Don't do resume questions like, how old are you? What's your job? Do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? I give them a list of 35 of my best first date questions that actually brings out the history of what you both grew up with. And that makes you appear a lot warmer, a lot more engaging
Mhm.
than as if you're going, check, check, check in your brain. you know, Money, good car. That stuff is worth nothing. It's people's values. One of the reasons this template is so important is as women, we often let men choose us
Mhm.
or we go for the chemistry.
Correct.
And those are not accurate ways of choosing someone. And I help women get their power back by knowing who they want.
Mhm.
And that a man also has to prove he's worthy of her, because we will bend over backwards as women to prove we're worthy of someone that we think we want.
That
And
is
that's given our power away.
absolutely. But then again, when we look at a certain age group, as you are catering that niche, do you think that after women that have been single for a while or divorced after for a while, they set themselves to live a certain way, and sometimes it's hard to be able to welcome someone else into their lives. So do you think that can hinder their desire to be able to want to meet someone and to change their ways to live their life because they have to now adapt to a new relationship?
I think that's a two-way street. I think men have the same issue. As you're aging, you come with a lot more baggage. You come with in-laws, outlaws, kids, grandkids. You come with possibly cats, dogs, houses, whatever. You come with a lot more stuff. And nobody really wants to compromise anymore, especially women who have taken care of men and overgiven for years, had their energy drained, and they don't want to do it again. So the thing is at this age group, you don't have to just get married. You could just have a boyfriend. You
Yeah.
could have a guy friend. You can have a lover. Be careful. It's easy to fall in love with that. That's friends with benefits. And when that oxytocin is dropping after sex, I mean, it's for women, it lasts a long time. For men, it's what, like 45 minutes?
At best.
So you're bonded away and he's not. So you could get hurt.
They call that now situationship. Is that correct?
Situationship. Say, what is your question about that?
Is it similar to friends with benefits?
That's friends with benefits I'm talking about.
It
You
is.
could get really hurt as a woman. So you can have that. You can also be in a long-term committed relationship living apart. You don't have to live together. Or you can be in a long-term relationship living together, or you can get married. So there are way more options. It's not like you're going to have a baby. And back when I was growing up, if you were going to have a baby, you better be married to that baby's father. And it's not that way today, thank God,
Oh, I know.
But
You're right.
there are more options, and we get railroaded into this really narrow path. And you don't have to have that.
That's so true because we don't need to follow any standards anymore, especially at a certain age where we learn not to give a rat's ass about anything or what other people think of us. So that's the best part about being 50 and over is that we don't care about what other people think of us. And that's the
I have to differ with you on that. I think that people do still care. Women still care. Women are people pleasers usually, unfortunately. And so we are bending like pretzels. Not every woman is doing that, but we were taught to be good girls, to sit in school with our hands like this on the desk, those kinds of things, and be good or you were in trouble. And I think that can still apply when somebody doesn't like us, when a guy doesn't like us, even if we don't like them, we feel bad. And so I always tell my clients, you just don't fit the picture of who he thinks he wants. Just like he may not fit the picture of who you want. But because as women, we want the world to love us, it hurts us when we get rejected.
even after a certain age where we bring in so much baggage into our life, where we learn to not be as I would say depending on other people's emotion because we learn to live alone. We learn to be able to grow ourselves, not having to depend on anybody else. So that kind of hardens our feeling a little bit more.
Yes, but we also fall back into old habits of wanting someone to like us. And eighth grade, seventh and eighth grade middle school, being popular. You know, and this is not everybody, but we are our habits and our patterns.
Yeah.
That's who we are. And so we can revert, not necessarily wanting to. Now, women have gotten burned, they've gotten hurt. They're the ones that really don't care. But what they often do is they take themselves out of the game because they don't want to get hurt again.
That makes more sense. Perfect.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the power of presence, Lisa. When I discussed about the story with Jennifer, where she, why active listening is important in the first date. So let's say when we go back to the scenario, we see that a lot of people are thinking too much about what they're going to say next in the first date, and they forget to really listen to what the other person says. So let's talk a little bit more about that process, how to multitask in our brain during that time where we can listen to what they say, but at the same time, formulate a conversation that makes sense when the interaction is flowing.
I think you just hit the key word. The interaction is flowing. A lot of women will say to me, "What is it with men? They just don't shut up." You know, they are just jabbering about themselves and they don't pay any attention or ask me any questions. And so I think the thing is when that happens, you have to sort of interject and add something because otherwise he's leaving without knowing anything about you. And you sacrificed yourself because you wanted to be the good girl and be the listener.
Mhm.
And I remember when I first started dating and didn't know what I was doing and crying a lot, this guy would call me like every night and I would let him jabber for hours. I mean, hours. He was using me as his freaking therapist. I didn't know any better that this was not cool, and he was never going to ask me out because he had found how he could use me. So I think the thing is one, I tell women who are real long talkers, and some are, I say, try and keep your answer to about 60 seconds and go back and forth in the beginning. Start to practice this with people
Mhm.
so that we're not doing what I'm doing now, giving you a 5-minute dissertation,
Okay.
but we're not dating. So it's okay.
So, but then again, if the other person is a talker, how when you said interject, which means interrupt?
I think you have to, and you can say something about you. Um, First of all, it's extremely boring. If somebody's monopolizing, now I know men try and impress, or men don't like, they also don't like the silences, so they'll keep going. So I think you have to, this is just takes time and getting used to just interjecting. And it could be repeating what he says and then adding your story on top. It could be something like that.
Okay.
But you got to get that as a back and forth conversation, or you should just leave if it doesn't work. And I always tell women, that was another thing I used to do. So if I didn't like a guy, I would sit there on a date and stay. And this wasn't just not like, I had one guy, he suggested like the best date in the world. He said, I thought it was very clever. Let's go have ice cream. So we meet in the parking lot of the ice cream place. I find out he doesn't have a job. I didn't even get a glass of water. It was 90 degrees out. No ice cream for sure. And you know, but I stayed, and my sister was in town, and like I was compromising myself. I wasn't honoring myself. I was honoring him. And that's a big thing that we do as women is honor the guy. No, you come back in and honor yourself, and you have boundaries. This isn't being mean girl. This is about being kind to yourself, and people will respect those boundaries when you are kind about them, but firm. I should have gotten up and left. And
Mhm.
I do give women 9 exit strategies for when a date is not working.
Uh,
Um, so they can do that. They can get that power. Sorry, my hair is like flyaway hair today. I don't know what's going on. It keeps coming in my face. And um, and not to monologue a little more here, but I'm going to. The hardest part, is that okay?
it's perfectly fine. So that's
The
the
hard
movie, the wrong Missy. I don't know if you watched that movie where one of the actors decided to go to the bathroom and leave from the window because she was lunatic. So yeah, I hope that your strategies are definitely a bit different than
they
those.
are not that.
Okay, excellent.
It's
So
an
again,
honoring of self.
so if you sum it up, then basically, the key here is to be able to be as polite, but at the same time, letting the other person know when they have to interrupt their 5 minute dissertation. They have to kind of like allow the other person. But if two people, the first time they meet, they're somewhat nervous, so it's very hard to be able to get them out of that nervousness state. So is there a way to be able to use specific word that will kind of like appease the interjection?
Well, when I told you I have those 35 best first date questions, one of the things that helps with is getting the back and forth conversation going. And it also helps fill gaps. You are nervous. Everybody's nervous. The other thing is I tell women, go into that date to meet someone new and interesting. Do not go in there trying to figure out if he's the one because you have no clue. No clue. You know that your body might tingle from attraction, but that doesn't tell you anything about who he is. And with these questions that go into history, like, and this could be for any age, like, who was your favorite band growing up, or who was questions that bring out history. What was your favorite toy? Where'd your family go on vacation? What that does is gets back and forth communication going versus where do you live? Well, I live in this house and I did this to it recently, and that is not
Well,
even
was right there,
interesting.
yes. So so women have the tendency also to overthink everything. So
Okay.
when do you kind of cut the not the conversation, but more about listening to every single word and trying to figure out what they mean?
Oh my God, that overwhelmed me just to hear that question.
For every woman out there.
I really think the overthinking is because we are so hard on ourselves and we feel we're not perfect and we're trying to impress. Did I say we leave that date going? Did I say the right thing? Did I mess up? He didn't ask me out again. And it all comes back to one, you want to be on that date deciding if you even like this guy, if you even want a second date. And I always do say, ask if he's really nice, give him a chance, give him a few chances. I've had clients who thought their guy was a dud and they fell in love with him by giving him a chance and they're married. I've had a few of those happen. It's we just make such impromptu decisions based on the wrong things. And I sort of got to come back to your question, which you have to remind me because I kind of went on a tangent.
Like every woman have the tendency to
Oh,
overanalyze
to overthink. Yeah.
every word.
That's what coming back into your power is. Those were the things I was explaining. And it has to come down to, is he someone that I would want to talk to again? Instead of, is he going to like me? And that's how we go in. Is he going to like me? No, you go in to meet someone new and interesting. Make it your job to find out three good things about him.
Okay.
Most of the time we go in and we find out every flaw he ever had. But, that doesn't help you.
Yes.
Find three really good things about him, and that's going to make him more interesting too. And then if the date doesn't happen, you leave that date saying, I had a really nice time. This was fun. If he asks you out again, fine. If he doesn't, you were just on that date to meet someone new and interesting.
And
That's
practice.
it.
And practice. That's the most important. And before, like the one thing that maybe will make you laugh or chuckle here, Lisa, why do women have the tendency to think that men can read their mind?
I don't think women think that men can read their mind. I think women test men all the time. And that comes from we were not really taught to say what we meant because we might get rejected. And so we will get mad because he doesn't read our mind because he can't, you know.
Okay. So before we actually soon to end this workshop, so let's talk about the last point, which is body language and chemistry. You talked about chemistry in the beginning, if especially if someone they find each other very, very attractive, but we cannot primarily depend or rely on oxytocin or dopamine, especially
Right.
the first. So when do you have to separate those two? Which means that you have to focus more on the personality and not let your urges take over.
So I teach my clients to go out and look for connection, find the connection. And the interesting thing about women is we may think a guy's not too cute when we first meet him, but as we get to know him and connect with him, we can think he's amazing looking. And that's why I tell women you want to give nice guys a chance. And one of the worst things about online dating is everybody's picking stuff from pictures and subjective thoughts of, oh, he must be this way, or oh, he must be that way, or she must be, or whatever. And it's not even accurate. Whereas if you met that person in real life, you see their personality combined with their looks, and the person you would have swiped left on, now you think, wow, this person's really interesting.
Mhm.
So if you're going to get connection and not into the body tinglies, you're coming from another different way to do this that gives you a chance to get to know someone
Okay.
versus that mental checklist in your head.
But then again, because also, do you feel that people need to become good psychologists when they have to go into dating? Because we need to really understand what the other person means, and especially the nonverbal cues, where how to express attraction to the other person. You have to really be paying attention to every little thing. But at the same time, we say not to overanalyze every single word. So this is kind of a paradox that when we go into dating, should we do this or should we shouldn't?
I am of the school, no, just go and have fun and be yourself. If you're busy analyzing, you're not present. And you can't be fun, you can't be enjoyable. You're you are really in the future going, will he fit this? Will he fit that? You don't know. So you may as well just get to know someone. You don't have to go on a second date. The other thing is chemistry, and this is why my second marriage didn't work. Chemistry is nothing but that body feeling, and it doesn't mean someone has what you really want. It just means you trust them quicker, and it doesn't mean they're trustable.
Mhm.
And that's why I tell women you need to be looking for connection, and that takes time. So have fun because you come across when you're more laid back, it is more fun. When you're in there with that checklist in your head, your body's forward, your body's not relaxed, not pulling away like this, but not like, I'm just having a good time. I mean, that feels good to people when they don't feel they're drilled by somebody across from them or analyzed by someone across from them, that they're just having a good time.
But it's very hard to tell women, especially if they've been going through a lot of dates and it has not worked out past the first date. For them, after a while, they kind of say to themselves, "What's the point? There's going to be another rejection." So you say to yourself to be having fun, but how much of that, if the end result will not bring to what they expect, how can they keep motivated to wanting to go on dates?
I think some of that comes from people are looking for a needle in a haystack for who they're looking for. And they're not finding it because it doesn't exist. They're looking for perfection. They're usually looking for the last relationship they were in a different body because it's familiar. And I think the frustration and the bitterness and all that comes because there's no openness to maybe my goals are different now. Maybe I don't want the same thing I used to want, even though that feels familiar.
Mhm.
And that's the hardest part to get over. I know women will say, I'll know my type when I see him. Yeah, you know your old type. But how do you really know your type other than how he looks until he opens his mouth? So I think it's like I said, I had women who gave men a chance and the guys were amazing, but they would have normally in the past dumped them and because they didn't fit their type, which was their old type.
That's
And yeah, and it's also getting clarity. What the frig do you want now? Most people go back to how they dated in their 20s. And you don't want the same things in your as you're aging, whether it's 30, 40, 50 or older, you know different things.
yes.
And yeah, or even 60 or 70. And I have clients in their 70s who have gotten married again. So love is possible at any age. It's really opening your mind to possibility versus closing your mind to it has to be a certain way.
So look, before we conclude this today workshop, if you'd like to be able to let us know where can people find you in case they just want to be able to reach out and find or ask for your services.
Yeah, it would have been smart if I had put my name down there instead of Zoom user. So
But we'll
my
put it
name,
into the description of this workshop. Don't worry about it.
so my name is Lisa Copeland, and you can find me at findaqualityman.com.
Okay.
And that's because that's what women are looking for, a quality man. So findaqualityman.com, and it's Lisa Copeland with a C. But I'm sure you'll have that somewhere around here that they can find it.
You're going to send me your website. You're going to send me everything. So I'm going to put into the description of this workshop. But so I'd like to thank you, Lisa, for taking the time of your relaxing Sunday afternoon to join us and engage with these valuable tips and advice shared today. And we look forward also to our upcoming workshop throughout 2026, featuring new expert panelists and a wide range of engaging topics focused on dating and relationship. So I would like to wish you all a wonderful rest of your Sunday afternoon, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Signing off for now.